I'm not sure where. We're doing on that.
No, I've reached out to a few different places. I'm getting estimates for all of them. So Justin's bringing his music though.
No, I'm talking about Justin Health.
No, I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we thought you meant Barney.
No.
Okay,
All right, 7:30.
The produce man.
gotcha. Yeah, Alex, yeah.
Call the special budget meeting to order. Opening that posted on with code of conduct. We can waive the pledge of allegiance. And get ready to,
If you want to split your packet into the starting with the revenue and then from the others, we can go through them like simultaneously. And yep, with the X on it at the bottom.
after page one. They're all page one.
Yeah.
Which page one are we on?
What's it?
Oh,
There is
two
a
pages
table.
of that. On top. Okay, so all right.
Okay, so starting with the actual budget that we turn into the county, which is this and the other large stuff. The front page did not change from when we had the last meeting at all. We're still requesting 305,000 for property tax, the valuation certified at 99,151,418. So none of that changed. The bonds are still projected at about 90,000 and with the interest at 4,600. So that all stayed the same. Then the next page is the property tax recap. And that will line up with this first page of our budget. I had to do a minor change. So that first one with the X on the bottom of it is what was sent out in the packet. The only change that I made to the one that doesn't have the X on it is the TIF money that we are getting is considerably more than what I'd projected on that first revenue. If you go down about to 1970A, which is about halfway down the page, I initially had it at 300,000, kind of projecting off of this year's numbers, but that wasn't close. It's going to be closer to 520,000.
Wow.
So I needed to make that change and reflect that on our property tax recap sheet. And so that changed that number from 4,093,000 available total resources. That's line 24 on the property tax recap. And it changed it, it bumped it up accordingly, 220,000 to 4.313. So that is the only change there. There was a little change from the initial property tax and revenue that we had. But this is very close. Today, when I was looking at our accounts, if you look at line 5 on the property tax recap, it's showing like 2.323 million. And our bank accounts are adding up very close to that. And we're getting very close to the end of the year. So I'm feeling pretty good with where the accountant got us started and really pretty good with these numbers. So that's that sheet. The next one, the next sheet for it's the to assist the county for levy setting purposes page. Mine says 2A, hopefully yours does too. There are 2 of those in your packet as well, one with the X, one without. Messing with those numbers and changing that income dropped this from the very last number on the bottom of the page was at 40%, and that's that cash reserve that we were talking about, and it's made it 37%. So those changes as well. Okay, now here's kind of the meat of the budget that we're going to adopt. And if you want to follow along, general had the change made on it, so you're gonna have two of those sheets in there, one with the X and the old ones. And the only change that was made from what was sent out in the packet was changing that transfer to the CRA checking, the one that's in blue towards the bottom, from 300,000 to the 520,000 to show that pass-through money that we have to show going to the CRA. So that was the only change. Now, if we go back to this page 3, the adopted budget page, our operating expenses, when you separate everything out, is 321,088. And that is just for the general part of the budget. This form does not really give you a place to separate out the library. So if you go on line number 2, general government, to other E, it's showing what would be the library's budget of 81,000. Did I lose you guys, or are you still there? So that's actually the library budget. And if you look at the library page in our budget, it should match that. So that's what those two are. The capital improvements of 100,000 that's shown kind of there in a green color. I'm still on line 2 in general. That is the Keno money, and that's what we kind of set aside to maybe do project at the park with the concession stand possibly, or if that doesn't pan out, that's money we could use to improve for community like betterment stuff. So that's what that 100,000 is there. The capital outlay of 170,000 is money that we kind of put aside out of general budget for the concession stand improvements. So you add the two together there, and that's where we're coming up with, actually, no, that is not it. Sorry about that. The 170 capital outlay there, I think is the monies we talked about for doing various other projects. With this, like maybe the I had that whole list. Not the sidewalks either, because I put that in the streets. There's all the other projects that we said, like the sales for the shade at the park and some of the other ones that we discussed. And kind of what I'm doing with that, it's not really specifically earmarked for anything. It could actually be held over again another year, but we have to show we're spending that money somewhere to fall below that 50% threshold for the revenue. So that's still kind of money as we move throughout next year that we can, I guess, for lack of a better word, play with and figure out where we want to spend that on, what capital outlay projects in it. Like I say, it could be saved and for a specific purpose and rolled into the next year if we came up with a big project that we were wanting to do. The debt service is the 48,000 for that is for our bond, and that's that line clear down almost at the bottom on general, 10,990, and that's what that is coming out of general fund this year since we are not doing a bond levy. And our bond account at the bank is sitting with $90,000 in it, so we are good for next year too, to not have to do anything to pay off this specific bond. So we're sitting with enough money to pay it off without ever doing that. If we were to do another bond, then we'd have to then we'd have to do a bond levy. So did I lose anybody on the general fund, or do you have any questions on anything in the general fund? Okay. Then we go to the police, and for the police department, the operating expense for the police is 147,790. We put 20,000 in there for capital outlay. Tim was interested in maybe a UTV. Today we found out there's a very good chance there's a grant we might be able to get to do that. So Tim's writing it up and it's due tomorrow and we're gonna get it turned in tomorrow. Do you know anything about that grant? Like you guys got it for a boat one time, I think at the fire department.
Yeah, the Jack Wood Foundation.
Yeah, that one. So whoever Tim was talking to today said that they were looking for ways for projects, and there was a very good chance we would get that. So keep our fingers crossed, and so that money could actually maybe be saved and used somewhere else or to do something else. But that's why that was put in there. The debt service in that line is to pay the cruiser off. We talked about paying those loans off, so that's what that is for. And that's where you come up with the 227,790. And then you get to the library, and like I said, the library is shown up there in general under other. And we did bump up a few things, but it's still within 8% of what it was last year. So any questions on that? Okay. Then the parks, we have an operating budget of 226,000. Or not, that's not the operating budget. That's the entire budget. The operating budget for that, trying to figure out how I have to divide that out on this other one. Okay, the operating portion of that is under culture and recreation on line 8, and that's 34,230. And then we have 192,000 under capital improvements, kind of that green number. And if you look at the parks page, that other 150,000 for the concession stand is shown there. We had 16,000 for the splash pad improvements, 16,000 for playground equipment, and another 10 for park improvements. The 30 or the 216,000s are ones that's ARPA money, so that's pretty much locked in to do those kind of improvement things there at the parks. One thing, we could move them completely to a different area, but that's kind of where they've been earmarked for a couple of years, is for park improvements. We do not have to have that ARPA money spent this year, but we have to say we're going to spend it towards something specific by the end of December. Okay, that's parks. Okay, we get to the street department. The operating expenses for that's 220,500. Capital improvements that we have, or that are shown there, there's 400,000, and that's essentially what we have left to pay on the project out here that we haven't paid yet. So we're showing that because we got to carry it into next year for billing. That's probably in reality not going to be quite 400,000. It's probably going to be a little bit less than that, but that's the number we're going to use to carry forward. The capital outlay of 125,000. I worked up an estimate on sidewalk based off of basically just the bid we got out here for doing sidewalk, and bumped it just a little bit. And to run sidewalk all the way from here to the school, like we talked about, a 6-foot sidewalk is roughly 125,000. Should be in that.
That'd be from downtown to the high school.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully that's a little high projection, but that's what we put in there for that.
Would that just be one side of the street then?
Mm-hmm.
I think school side, east side.
Yeah.
There's 300,000 shown in there for debt service, and that's a number that we got in there that we could pay off the city's half of the loan for the First and Poplar Street, and then all would be left would be the CRA's half. So that debt service can be used to pay on any loan. Basically that the city has, but that's most of the money that is owed by the city is either that long-term debt that has 0% interest or 0.5% interest, or is owed by the CRA. So really the only good place to put it would be on the first and popular project, because that's a higher interest rate. I think it's 4.25.
Makes sense.
So any questions on that? That come out for a little over $1,045,000 for the total budget for that. Okay.
And their culture and recreation at 192.
Yes.
Touched on that one yet?
Yeah, I skipped around a little bit. The 34,000, that's parks. And then that 192,000 was for 150,000 for the concession stand, and then the other ones was that ARPA money to be spent at the splash pad and for playground equipment.
And do we have on the streets anything, the alleys,
As far as what?
money set aside?
That would be under just general maintenance.
Okay.
That I don't think that would be a
Cost that
separate
much,
yeah, a separate part. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll also keep me in tune on that.
And most likely, like I said, in the street, that 400,000, that's under the 21,050. We're not gonna spend 400 of that, so there's probably gonna be a little money left there to us the last half of next year to reallocate. Okay, the bonds, which I discussed, we do not have a budget for bonds, so that's the bond sheet. Water is number 19 on the other budget sheet. And our operating expenses are 243,400 on there. And the capital improvement that we set 40,000 aside for, as we talked about a new well. And I just kind of threw a number out there, and I don't know if JEO was listening, but I got an estimate today for doing like a whole project and their exploration well, basically coming to 40,000 to do an exploration well. That's what that's for. Not saying we go with JEO, but that was just our guess, 15 months there, do an exploration well. And then the entire project JEO have a 1.3 million that we put in the well. Then the 90,000 is for paying off debt service. See if I can remember how I did this. Half of it, half of it's going to pay off Luke's truck and the payment that we have for the loan, the revolving fund for the water line or water meters. And then transfer out is going to go to general fund for next year. And currently we've been running at a profit on water and sewer because we haven't been paying these full payments on the SRF loans. And I think we have our rates set at a very reasonable rate, and where we can run in a little bit of a profit mode unless we have like a lot of water line breaks or, you know, unforeseen circumstances. So we can transfer that 45,000 over to general at the end of the year if we have it. If we don't, then we won't. So that's what that's for. A lot of this is just trying to show where we're putting this money so we aren't sitting there with huge cash reserves at the end of the year. So there's probably going to be some conversation after the first of the calendar year of where we can go with some other projects and where we're sitting. So that's water. I am missing something on my sheet. Oh, never mind. Okay, wastewater, operating expenses of 233,000. Don't really have a specific earmark for the capital outlay of 25,000, but it's money we can start putting towards a specific project or carry over for even a bigger project. The debt service is for the SRF loan for the sewer. And the total expenses for that are 283,000, so.
I'm talking the two numbers don't add up.
Which two numbers?
Wastewater shows 283.50. And our sewer shows 320.50. But it also said street funds, but
What are we looking at?
Right here, and the bottom here, and then your total here. Aren't the same. It's like that for water in general as well.
Which one did you say didn't add up?
the sewer, the wastewater. And it shows street funds. So I don't know if that line didn't get carried over. That 320,000.
Yeah, it should match that.
Because
You're
water is the same and so is general. They don't match
I
either.
was having some difficulties with the spreadsheet and some of the formulas not being right, but I had it. I know I had that correct on the one that I seen.
This water says street funds too.
Why do you think it?
Mhm.
Maybe, yeah. They all have big ones. And then not all. But water.
I think there was some trouble with those formulas on the one we turned into the county.
Mhm.
Because my overall total budget adds up. 283. All figured out. It's that.
But it should be 23,050.
No. It's 328.50. It's 50,000 off for some reason. That's it.
Zero, yeah, to 2025 budget, it does equal 328.50.
So we're 100,000 off. Or no, you're right, 50,000 off.
Here, street fund, so it's street fund, there's three of them that are all the same. But this looks correct on this one.
The spreadsheet adds them up going to the right and then it adds them up going to the bottom and I was having trouble getting those to zero out and I thought I got it. The total number is correct at 3.441 though, if you go across the bottom, I believe.
Transfer general fund is debt service is different. Unless I looked at something wrong.
What's that?
The debt service on wastewater is 35,000.
And what am I showing on our budget?
35,000. Or
We did that one. SRF payment, is that it?
Yeah. That's
And then-
up at, on sewer, it's 9150, that 35,000. Transfer to general.
When you look at the wastewater. You compare that to the table, the 328 compared to the 283, that's a $45,000 difference.
Then that's gotta be that
Transfer out.
transfer out.
Yeah, the transfer to general is.
Okay, I think what I did is I got it on the wrong
Wrong
line.
line.
It went up on wastewater.
You don't have that one that's the out line.
Yeah, it just needs to be up the line.
That takes care of water and wastewater in general.
Okay. Tell you what, it's good to have other people look at this, cause after a while.
Well, for
So then it's just general that's off.
look at all this stuff.
But then you go up to water. Right?
45,000.
If you subtract the 45,000 off of water, it comes up to that, 373, 400, correct?
And general is off by 81,000.
Yeah.
Well, the general's off by 81,000, cause it's, that's.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yep.
Library.
Okay, that makes sense.
The out one line.
Okay, I think
forgot about
I
library.
think the only error I had there was, that was not the 45,000 was off one line. Correct.
But that should come out of
And-
water instead of at least water, right? Am I wrong? And this is the
Oh, you're saying?
No, because sewer, we're
we're ahead on sewer.
way ahead on sewer.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, way ahead on sewer.
We're good on the.
Yeah.
The general number has that 81,000 because that's the library. That's why it's off and it doesn't match the general number on.
The library is separate.
It's in general, but we show it separate because it's its own thing. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, any more questions on that? Okay, then we go to this year that we're currently on, and these are very fresh numbers. And the remaining of this will just be on these sheets. We're pretty much done using the other stuff. So we're on the
It's after these.
2023-24 actual estimated budget.
This
And
one.
Page one.
it's page one.
Doing a great job, Bob.
It's the ones right after the ones we were just talking about.
The deal is, I've copied this over into a separate thing, so I'm not messing with like the official one that the accountant has. And cause she's been gone on vacation for like over a week, so I had to make these changes. And I just printed the whole book out with that change.
You're like, somebody's got to go around.
So basically, these are expenses up to now. The only two real things that I wanted to explain to you were, we've gathered bids on the mower, tractor, leather tractor, and the capital outlay that's in red between wastewater and water. Is a split to buy that tractor, and that's off of a solid bid. So if we buy that tractor, that money will be spent and taken out of there. And then the transfers out, clear over to the right F. There is no place really for me to show you guys what we're projected to spend until September 30th. So that I wanted to put that out there to show you that we still have about another, probably close to 100,000 that's going to pop out of our budget till then. When this goes into the county, those numbers are all going to be pushed over into operating expenses over into A. So, but I just wanted to, where those numbers are at now, other than the transfers out, are what we were sitting at last Thursday or whenever we sent this out.
I'm sorry, Paul, I guess that transfers out, what is that going to the general?
They just go straight, if you take them straight back over to A on the line they're in, that's just projected expenditures until September 30th. I just didn't, there's just no place for me to really show that to you.
Okay.
And that gives us that total over to the side, like the 680, the 134.9, and that 2.45 at the bottom. And that's the number we need to put into our formula to come up with that revenue percentage. So that's what that is.
Is that quote on that tractor with all the attachments as well? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll be presenting at the meeting next week, but we got two bids, one from Wahoo and one from Gretna on the same exact tractor, so.
Okay.
And then that next page one is for 2022, 2023. And that didn't change any, that's just data that we've had from before. Then the summary of the proprietary functions, there's nothing that we're doing on that right now. Then the next one is the form we send in when we do the budget. Then the next page has the yellow on it with the calculated restricted funds. That's just showing like we're getting 305,000 in property tax and the in lieu of payments and motor vehicle tax and the highway allocation, and those things are all restricted to be, we have to use those in certain areas wherever they're allocated for, like the highway allocation money has to be spent on streets. So the allowable capital improvements is 250,000, and that's the more realistic number that we're going to have left to pay on the street, because I'm expecting a pay voucher before the end of this month that we'll hopefully be getting before this next meeting. So and then the 48,000 is that bond payment. So that those are what they call lid exceptions. They don't count against your property tax related. Okay, the next sheet is our prior years restricted fund authority was 376,756. They go through the computation of 2.5% increase, and then you can do a 1% if the council board approves, which gives you 3.5%, and that's allows you to have another possible $13,000 in taxing authority, which would give us a total restricted taxing authority of almost 390,000, 389,943. And then they take the less the lid part and off of what we have. And basically we have 100,000 property taxes we could be collecting that we're not. So that's a good place to be then. And that next page is showing that street improvement for the 250. This is the next page, the municipal levy limit form is kind of one of the important ones. That shows the 305,000 of property taxes we are requesting, and it shows the tax rate of 0.37603. And there is no bond tax levy at all. We did away with that. And that did not change from any of what we've been talking about at the previous two. And then the next one is the allowable growth percentage. It's just kind of it's showing the percentage of allowable growth we had with 765. The allowable dollar increase to property tax requested would have been 25,000. So the total base, if we'd have left everything the same, would have been 360,000. We're only doing 305,000. So those are just computations that if we were over 360,000, we'd have some explaining to do, but we're not. And then the other page that changed would be the next one, and I printed it off and it's kind of small. The difference that it's showing there, from the one with the X and that one is our budget that we're gonna be doing it for 2024, 2025. From 4,093,000 to 4.313, and that's that pass-through money from the CRA, the TIF to CRA. And then it also changed the percentage of the budget, operating budget, from 8% to 16%, but it's really not, because it's not just pass-through money, but we have to show it somewhere. The ones that matter is the property tax request is down 9%. The valuation went up 14%, and the tax rate from what we taxed last year was 3.841% or 0.1, and it's going down to 30763, which is down 20% from last year. So the tax rate dropped 20% from last year for property tax. And that's pretty much it. There's some legal papers, the last couple of papers that are in there, but that's the budget.
Anyway, you can go through all of the papers and you want my line was.
If you want, you can say. I know
You and Bob can do that. You're 30 in one line. Bob will vote pass it next week.
Brandy thinks so.
Yes.
I got a call from Rick Fortmeyer, which he's the accounting firm, and he kind of got thrown into the middle of this because our accountant went on vacation, and he thought that they needed to post like what we did tonight in the paper, and well, it won't go in until a week from Friday. So if we can't do it, I'll make a call to him tomorrow. If we can't do it at our budget meeting, we're gonna need to do one between the 23rd and that week of the 23rd. A special meeting to do it, so we can get it posted.
Yeah, posting, pretty sure, right?
We posted,
I posted what I originally had.
she posted what we did the previous meeting, but it changed, so I'm not sure how that works. I mean, because theoretically, you could come into the budget hearing and public's here and they're want you to make changes, and you make it that day. And then I think you would have to repost it again after that. Your final budget has to be posted. But whether it has to be posted again before we can approve it, that's a question I'll have to ask tomorrow.
If we have to meet that week of the 23rd, I could do Monday or Friday. Otherwise, I'm out of town.
Monday would be the best if we could, if you get it wrapped up.
Exactly. What are you at?
Hold on.
That's if we have to, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
My guess is we are.
So I can reach out to the other clerks, but
Tentatively plan, so.
Yeah, I think we should just tentatively plan to do the 23rd.
Okay.
And then if we don't, we can just cancel it.
Yeah, so I just. I'm in the middle, like a whole thing, so, like, say, so what time that night?
Right. 7:30 was good for me. I know it's later, but.
I like 7:32.
It's fine with me.
that's fine.
And we just need a quorum to pass it. So I mean, if there's one person that can't make it, I mean, we essentially went through everything. And we very well can be able to do it next week too. I just want
Or say I can always reach out to Omaha and we can print it in their paper. It costs a little more, but they print daily, so.
next year I'll have solid answers for you. Still learning a little.
I think we're okay to go ahead and pass it next week. I can reach out to the other clerks too tomorrow.
Double checking. Posted tomorrow and then be done. Then we know what to do. Yep. After we get the corrections, that way if it's not.
The only correction I had was to move that 45,000, right? Okay.
Okay. Anything else? You motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn at 8:10 was made by Chittenden and seconded by Peterson. Lawton,
Yes.
Schminty,
Yes.
Chittenden,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Randy.